where employees basically they are building their teams, they are proposing ideas as well, and they have a time frame to develop those ideas. And that's pretty interesting because we have done that for many years now. One thing that takes more time is building trust because they have different cultures, they have different languages, different communication styles. So making sure that everyone has the space that they need. I think it's important to have the sensation that you are growing, not only in the professional space, but also in other spaces. So we try to help all of our employees to develop the abilities that they need. We are seeing more and more machine learning solutions that are using multiple sources of information. And now we are facing a situation where many of these solutions cannot explain where is the data coming from.
We are here with JD Aguilera, VP of Engineering for 3D Visual Intelligence at Verisk. Verisk is a global leading data analytics provider and has earned the Great Place to Work certification for 6 consecutive years and has been recognized as one of the world's best employers, one of the world's most innovative companies, and one of America's best employers for women. JD is a passionate technologist and has vast experiences in geospatial data, machine learning, computer vision, and cloud integration. And I am so excited to bring on his perspective today. JD, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Could you start by telling us more about Verisk, your role, and the previous experiences that led you there?
Yeah, sure. So I can start with Verisk, probably. So Verisk is a global data analytics provider, as you said. We provide solutions to the insurance market, and with these solutions, our customers can improve their internal processes to take decisions. So, for instance, we can provide information about the specific claims that are happening in a property or in a vehicle, or we can provide more global information at large scale, like climate change or extreme events. So, yeah, the scope of the companies is pretty big. I personally have been working in the geospatial industry for more than 20 years now. I joined Verisk 10 years ago, and I'm leading the engineering group at Verisk, 3D Visual Intelligence, which is a business unit specialized in machine learning and geospatial data.
Now, JD, you have a lot of experience in advanced technologies, and this is an exciting time for tech leaders and engineers coming up. Talk to us about how your team at Verisk is innovating and how these innovations both impact your hiring decisions and motivate the type of talent that you're looking to bring on.
Yeah, so we approach innovation from different angles. First, I think we have a very powerful framework where employees can propose ideas to the company. And then within these ideas, we choose some of these ideas and we put them in practice. So we can test, these products or designs within the company first and see if we can incorporate that in the market. In addition to that, we have what we call the Innovation Days, which is a kind of hackathon where employees basically they are building their teams, they are proposing ideas as well, and they have a time frame to develop those ideas. And that's pretty interesting because we have done that for many years now, and we have some ideas that are incorporated actually as part of our product portfolio. So this is something very powerful and very exciting. People love these days because they can put in practice all the ideas that they have. So it's a very interesting thing. On your second question about the hiring decision, I think for me personally, one of the most important things is that the candidate show real interest for the things that we are doing, that make questions about the things that we are doing, even propose ideas during the interview. We had some candidates that they were actually proposing ideas and saying, yeah, maybe you can do that in this way. And this is something that I really love. So yeah, those are basically the main points that we consider.
Now, you have been a leader in the tech space for quite some time. What is your approach to leadership and management style? And talk to us about how this has adapted over time and the impact you've seen it have on you and the team.
Yeah, well, I think when organizations require agility and the teams have experience, I think something that is working pretty well is just giving them the space to take decisions so they have a higher level of autonomy when they are deciding how to develop a specific product. So this is something that it's working pretty well, again, when teams have experience. But obviously, this is not always the situation, right? There are many different types of teams and cultures and everything. So I believe one of the main responsibilities for team leads is to make sure that we understand the situation of each team and we adapt the framework that we have for those teams so they have the tools that they need. In other cases, when we have, like in my case, multiple teams to manage, I think it's also important to make sure that we have the proper communication channels. And this is especially important, for instance, in global teams, like it's our case, where we have people that is working with 10 hours of difference. They are some people in California, some people in Europe. So making sure that we have the expectations about when it's a good time to contact someone, make sure that we respect, the time for personal time. All these things I think are pretty important.
Now, throughout your career, you have worked with clients, stakeholders, and employees in over 20 countries. Based on your experiences, what, in your opinion, are key elements to running global teams successfully?
Yeah, so global teams, they have incredible benefits, and it definitely brings multiple opportunities for organizations. So it's easier to find talent. You have multiple perspectives. So this is something that is very useful. But with that said, obviously, it has some challenges as well that you need to consider. So, for example, one thing that takes more time is building trust between teams because they have different cultures, they have different languages, different communication styles. So making sure that everyone has the space that they need, that they have the appropriate tools to communicate is something that is very, very important when we are talking about global teams. So yeah, I think this is something that is really, really important.
Oh, in similar alignment with my previous question, based on your experiences leading and growing and accelerating teams, what would you say would be the top three priorities in the talent management lifecycle for a VP of engineering? How do you really build successful and innovative teams?
Yeah, so for us is very, very important employee development. We spend a lot of effort on that because when you are working in a company for that long, and we all spend many hours working per week, we want to be, I think it's important to have the sensation that you are growing, not only in the professional space, but also in other spaces. So we try to help all of our employees to develop the abilities that they need. And this is helping with probably the second priority that we have, which is retention. We love to have people for a very long time in our company. When I have an interview, I always say that it's like you're about to start a long-term relationship with this company. So retention is very important because of the first point. We are actually spending a lot of effort in employee development. And the other thing that probably is important is the separation process. So when we have an employee that decides to follow a different path or change the company or whatever, I think it's important as well to understand why this is happening, if this is a question of compensation, if that's a question of the culture of the company, products, so we can improve, our internal processes and make the company better.
Now, switching gears a little bit, the position of data scientist is in increasing demand, but we're finding a lot of companies are confused as to what exactly this role entails. What do you find are the hiring complexities when hiring for this role, and what can companies do to avoid hiring mistakes?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think sometimes the boundaries that we have between the different data science roles can be very confusing. And I think it's for a good reason. I mean, many companies are starting this journey with data science. They are publishing offers with job descriptions where maybe they are not clear enough or they are confusing terms. So yeah, it's confusing, and it's because it's a new technology. So yeah, this is something that is happening right now. For companies that are starting the data science journey, before hiring, I would say that it's very, very important to understand the requirements that they have in terms of the product. Because I have seen cases where, we are trying to build things where probably data science is not the best approach because we don't have the data that we need, or we don't have the skill set that we need, or maybe we are not even understanding the problem. So the first thing that I will do is definitely spend time analyzing the problem, making sure that we understand what we need to build, and then decide, if we need a machine learning engineer or a data scientist, or maybe we just need an expert in that area. So, yeah.
Now, during your time putting together future-proof teams, what tech roles have you found to be the hardest to fill successfully, and why do you think this is?
Yeah, so very recently it was almost impossible to find anyone. Basically, that was very tough. But probably the role that was more difficult for me to find was machine learning engineers with experience in production environments. Because one thing is the academic world, when you have, a lot of papers, lot of complexity as well, but you don't have that component related to the actual customer using the tool. So having people with experience in both worlds was definitely something very, very difficult. Also, DevOps position were something that was very difficult to find as well. And I think it's because of the same reason. It's a new technology, and there is still an imbalance between, the technology and the people that actually have experience with that technology.
Now, what is a piece of advice you have to up-and-coming talent about how to gear up for the next 10 years in tech innovation, whether that's soft skills or hard skills or career advice?
That's a very good question. So I think during the last 10 years, probably one of the most important things that we have done as technology community is the simplification of components to build new technology. So one great example is, for instance, cloud technology and the rapid expansion that this is having. Right now, we can literally create 1,000 instances of machines just with a single script. So it's something that is very, very powerful. We are seeing also some commercial companies that are using tools to convert natural language into programming code. So it's very difficult to determine what is going to happen in 10 years because everything is changing so fast that it's extremely difficult. But I would say knowledge in physics, mathematics, these kind of things is always something useful because it helps to build, the mindset to solve engineering problems. So this is something that having this foundation, in my opinion, is extremely important. And outside of the technical field, probably intellectual property is something that is going to be very important as well, because we are using machine learning models. We are seeing more and more machine learning solutions that are using multiple sources of information. And now we are facing a situation where many of these solutions cannot explain where is the data coming from, or if they have a license to use that data. So this is something that is going to be an issue in the future. And probably a specialist in property, in the intellectual property, will be something very useful. And probably the last field that I think is going to be more important is security. Because of that, we have more and more data. Personal information is more and more important. So this is something that is going to be very important in the future as well.
Last question for you, JD. At Solvable, we're all about what drives purpose and meaning for people at work. So I would love to know what drives purpose and meaning for you at Verisk.
Okay, so I consider myself a technology nerd. I love technology, and just being part of the transformation that is happening today is just great. It's something that keeps me very, very motivated. So just being part of this it's awesome.
JD, thank you so much for being on with us today. And thank you all for listening to Architects of Contemporary Hiring.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much.